All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Talk Openly. My name's Jack, and I'm here with my friend Daniel. We are Saga members of Lions Roar Dharma Center in Sacramento. And we just had a couple weeks off. And Daniel, I have to say, I miss you, buddy.
Yeah, I've missed you too, Jack. I'm so happy
Yeah,
to be back with you. It's nice to see your smiling face.
I know. I'm so happy to see you too. And we're going to check in a little bit, but we're going to be talking tonight about the hell realms and hell beings. And yeah, I feel a lot of compassion for these sad beings. So
Yeah, my gosh. Oh,
yeah, we'll
doesn't
dive into
sound
it a little
easy.
bit,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about our own psychological hells, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, I want to know a little bit about how you're doing before we get into that.
Yeah, no, I'm good. We took a couple of weeks off because I was on a trip to Spain, which was fantastic. It was beautiful,
Nice.
marvelous, wonderful. I came back with two things in particular. One of them was a deep and profound appreciation for siestas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the Spaniards have it right, and
I
especially
think
given,
so.
given how similar their climate is to California, especially where I'm living here in Sacramento. It's mind-boggling, especially with energy prices and all of this kind of stuff. Like why we don't do siestas here. It just doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense, right? If anybody wants my vote, just propose mandatory siesta time. I'm
I
all
think
into it.
it's a great platform. In fact, I think you could run a campaign off of
I think so
mandatory
too. Yeah,
attendance.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So there was that, and then I also brought back COVID.
Yeah.
Uh
Yep.
yeah, so I've never that I've known of, I've never had COVID before. Uh
Oh,
yeah, my
okay.
last night in Spain, it was thunder and lightning, and all of a sudden everything changed and I felt like all off. And then the whole airplane ride back, of course, I was sneezing and coughing and all that stuff and just
Oh no.
blowing all that COVID all throughout the airplane.
Oh no.
I had no idea. I had no idea that I had it. And then I landed, and at the airport there was like some people at the exit who were like, "Hey, we're just doing random samplings if you want to see what kind of COVID strains there are coming through right now." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then as a thank you, they gave me a COVID test. And I was like, "All
Mm,
right, whatever, thank you." And then came home, and the next morning I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I really don't feel good." And
yeah.
I took the little test and it showed up right away. I was positive. So
Yeah.
I took an extra several days of relaxation in bed, which
Yeah.
was the right thing to do. But I feel really bad because I gave my partner COVID, and
Yeah.
she is miserably sick right now, and I feel really bad.
Yeah. COVID hits a little different, huh?
It
You
does.
can't,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, to me, it felt kind of like just like a pretty intense head cold, but it has weird sort of like body feel. I don't know. It has yeah, it hits different. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I got COVID, it was like I knew. I was like, okay, I haven't felt quite like this before in terms
Yeah.
of illness. It was kind of fascinating. But it was nice to kind of like, I don't know, um, just get it done and over with
Yeah.
almost. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I had COVID.
Now I know what that's like. I could take that off of my bucket list.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm fortunate to, be relatively healthy and not have to worry about, a mild to moderate case of COVID really messing me
Yeah.
up. So, yeah,
Yeah. Thank goodness, huh?
yeah. Can I ask too, how did it affect your mind? Did you do any kind of meditation at all while you were sick?
Yeah, I did actually. I found that so before I left, I had asked Lama for some advice on practice during vacation, and he had said, well, it's nice to just keep things going at least with some mantras, even if you don't do a formal seated meditation every day or whatever. And
Mhm.
so I'd been doing that on the vacation, and particular Vajrasattva.
Mm,
And it was interesting that when that first night that I was sick, it was really an odd, like I didn't quite know that I was sick, and it was just like a weird, it felt like sort of this surreal experience because the weather had been like clear and warm, then all of a sudden it was like intense thunderstorms. And I mean, it was like I was up in the mountains and it felt like it was all around me and I couldn't sleep, and it was just weird. Everything was off,
yeah,
and so like I was throughout that night, I just kept doing Vajrasattva mantras. And I found it actually really, it was kind of beautiful. Like I enjoyed the
mm,
experience. There wasn't, it wasn't negative. So I found that to be pretty helpful. And then of course, remembering like, man, there are a lot of people right now who are sick with all kinds of ailments. COVID surging with a lot of people have that alone, let
yeah,
alone all the other kinds of diseases and conditions that we have of the body. So, it really sort of ties me right back into how I'm just the same as everybody else, right?
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was something I tried to do when I had COVID, was just lay in bed and think about like, okay, let's just imagine if I could take all the COVID from everybody,
Mhm.
that my illness just be enough.
Right.
Yeah, that reminder that like, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this. There's so many people struggling right now. So
Well,
yeah,
that part that is particularly powerful since I do have a tendency to sometimes see myself as, oh, something special or different, of course,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
And because I hadn't gotten COVID, I was like, ooh, I'm like, and like everybody else has gotten COVID, but not me. It's probably because I'm like so good and healthy and all that, whatever. You know how silly
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. And then of course I got it and I was like, oh, right. Like, no, you're nothing special, dude.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We have these permeable bodies that are
Yeah,
just
I know, right?
constantly like all these orifices that stuff can get into, and like it's wild.
Yeah. It's not as solid even on a physical level, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're better. I'm glad that you're back. Are
Yep.
you like fully post-COVID now?
Yeah. Yep. Sure
Good.
thing. Yeah, I feel pretty good. Yeah, I don't have any lingering anything. It's all nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
I was even able to get, I had not been meditating while I was on vacation, which actually was kind of nice. Like it was truly a break from many different things. I would say formal meditation. I was still
yeah, yeah.
meditative, but for whatever that counts. But I did have a nice yesterday morning. I was like post COVID. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. There's nothing lingering. I'm fine. So I went early in the morning to the temple and spent a decent amount of time there doing various practices and meditating. And it was really the thing. First, it was really nice to be back. There was like
Mm,
comfort is like comfort of like your own home, your own temple, that kind of thing, right? And then there was also what I thought was really interesting was I noticed during my sit yesterday that it took a lot of diligent effort to stay with it and to
mm,
like I noticed how there was like a real heightened energy, which I think was partially from having not been sitting regularly. And I think it was also partially like I'd been in this like restful state for a while, right? Laying in bed,
yeah,
being sick. And I had just like a lot of energy. And man, I was just like, oh, I can't stand it, right? Like
yeah,
sitting here and I just wanted to like bounce up and go and do all kinds of stuff. But the sit was really helpful to watch how, no, really, no matter how agitated or excited or whatever my mental state is, I really can engage in these practices and can watch it still, right? Just like the mud in the water. Like it really does. If you just let it sit, it does settle down.
yeah, it does. Yeah. Great. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you're back.
Yep. Same. Yeah, all good. All good. I recommend Spain to anybody who can go.
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have
Yeah.
to hear more details later on.
Sure thing. What about you? How have you been and what have you been up to? How's your practice? How's life? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so my life has definitely given me plenty of opportunities to practice, as it always should, but when things feel a little bit more chaotic. It's just a little more obvious, like, okay, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I graduated on the 16th, which was a highlight, very exciting. Um, and uh, and then I also moved, um, which has been,
That's past
you know,
tense, Jack. That's all. It's all done.
it's
It's all
all
over.
done.
Okay.
We've got to unpack some boxes, but the move is done. So thank
Yes.
goodness. Yeah. Um, but moving is so interesting psychologically, in a lot of different ways. But it's just such this obvious break in permanence, where it's like I get my little nest when I'm home, and especially over a few years, it's like you accumulate all your stuff, and the place just it has the sense of home, and then
Yeah.
moving, it's just this very kind of abrupt rupture in that state of false permanence that I've created. And so that's been really interesting just to watch, and then also um, uh, see how my mind becomes very attached. So I am moving from a space that was a lot bigger, and I've moved into a room that's significantly smaller than the one that I had.
Yeah.
And when my partner and I were setting up my room, um, I had this moment of just like, we've been tired, we've been working and moving and, not sleeping well and all the things. And I just like dropped and was just like, I don't like
Oh
this at all.
no.
I was just like, I want it to be bigger. I don't have enough space. We're paying more to have less. This sucks, Um, but then of course we set it up in a way that now I actually feel very comfortable, and it's kind of sweet. It's like this nice little kind of cozy space, and I have everything that I need. I'm fine. Um, and so it's just fun to kind of watch the mind, flicker between those states,
Yeah.
and to watch attachment happening, um, and jealousy, envy, right? Because one of my roommates has the master bedroom, so there's
Oh, oh, that's the
like
worst.
there's like all this different, but it's fine. It's actually like I'm not having those like reactions right now, and
Oh, of course not.
so
You're adjusting to what's new, right?
yeah.
You're post transition.
Post transition, yeah, now just reaching a new plateau. But yeah, oh, I had my while we were moving, my car broke down. I
Oh,
blew
Jesus.
yeah, I blew a gasket. And so for a few days I was looking at cars. So I ended up
Whew.
buying a new car because I don't know if you've looked at cars lately, but used car prices are absurdly high. And so I just ended up buying a new car.
Oh, wow.
Um, but and so that was kind of fun too to watch, like, oh, like I'm gonna put down this down payment. My savings is going like way down, and seeing how my mind reacts to that. And it's really incredible. Like our training, the training that we do for real life means that like I was able to enter that situation with a lot of calm rather than panic, which when I've panicked in those situations before, I've made rash decisions and, ended up, buying things or not buying things because of fear.
Yeah.
Whereas I was able to be really patient and take my time, and not really care in a way. There was this element of like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, all that money's going there, but it doesn't matter. I need a car. I gotta get to
Yeah,
work.
right. No, you
Um,
know, exactly.
so this kind of like, yeah,
And what a great thing that you had the means to get it,
yeah, exactly.
right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's all kinds of
it-
concerns around that and having to make the payment and all that, but you had it. You did
but
it.
thank goodness that, yeah, no, I have felt so fortunate the last couple weeks. Um, but yeah, interesting because, so I just bought that car, and then, the next day, got notice that my license was still pending. So my
Oh,
social work license with the state.
oh,
And my job reached out and was like, hey, you can't start. Uh, Tomorrow was supposed to be my start date. And they're like, you can't start until your license is active. And so went through all this, like, calling the state, trying to figure out what's going on, them saying there's really nothing we can do. You've just got to wait. Um, and so I was feeling a little bit nervous, like, oh man,
yeah,
I just made this big investment. Like, I've got to be able to make these car payments. Like, what am
yeah.
I going to do? Um, and I got an advice from a friend who was like, hey, why don't you just like contact your state representative, to contact one of your senators and just let them know, like, the Department of Health is run by the state, right? So, just see if anyone can just mention something. So that's what I did yesterday. I emailed my senator, who's actually, I don't know if he's like on the board, if that's a thing for the Department of Health. Um, but today my license went active. I looked on the website. So it's amazing. So I'm gonna be able to start work tomorrow, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's been so wild because it's like all these like kind of fluctuations, and sometimes I've definitely got pulled, right? Like I've been
Yeah.
tugged at the like the what ifs, like, oh no, chaos, and a little bit of anxiety. But our training is just incredible in what it does in stabilizing the mind. And no matter what, I'm going to return to my training, and the stability that I find there has just been incredible. So
Oh,
yeah, that's my
oh,
story.
wow. Man, yeah, those are some rough oceans you're riding in.
Yeah, they are. They're definitely like this. The ups and downs.
Wow, but nice, nice. You maintained your balance and you're
Yeah.
able to clearly sort of like move into the like in the direction that you need to. And
Yep.
and damn, that's awesome. Taking care of stuff with the license.
Yeah. I
Good
know.
job, Jack.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're
it was
you're
like one.
inspiring.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. Well, and that's the thing, is that, it's not just us one as an individual. Like, if I hadn't gotten that advice from a really
Exactly.
smart friend,
Right.
like I
Yeah.
wouldn't have my license right now.
Yeah.
And so it's all this interdependent, happenings.
I love that when we actually can listen to other people and recognize the wisdom that they're offering, you know.
Yeah.
I love that feeling because I'm oftentimes resistant to that, right? My ears
Oh,
are
I
all
was
plugged
resistant.
up. I think
Mhm.
I know things and I like so like when you said I'd be like, dude, that's nonsense. There is no way that contacting your senator is going to achieve anything. They don't listen, whatever. And
Right.
right. But who knows? Like one way or the other. Maybe that was a little bit of WD-40 to get the cog spinning.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just something to give you a feeling of doing something and being proactive while things work themselves out anyway. Who knows
Right.
how that stuff works? Either way, it was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was not very open to the idea at first, because like exactly what you're saying, like I don't trust my representatives to give a
Oh,
crap about what my
right.
everyday life is. But yeah, once my license went active, I sent an email over to the senator's office and let them know, and just thanked for any advocacy. And his secretary got back to me and was appreciative that, I reached out. And so I think it maybe maybe it actually worked this time.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that story. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I
totally.
like it. But on a couple of different fronts, I really like that. You know, one, that aspect of really being open and willing to receive helpful advice from other people, and from different sources. Like
Yeah.
that's great. But also that being proactive and working towards achieving your goals there, right? Like you didn't just sit on your ass and stress about it. You did something about it, right? That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to be active. I think
Yeah.
that's another thing about Dharma that I love, is that it's not just about sitting and like being aware of the moment or something. It's really it's taking action, taking right action and
That
effort.
part, that aspect of it is so fun for me compared to what I thought I knew about Buddhism. And oh, it's
Yeah,
sort of this pacifist, like sitting, like everything's okay, chill,
right. Let
relax.
it go.
Yeah, let it go, let it go. It's okay. Nope. And that appealed to me back,
Me
that
too.
did. And so
Yeah.
this right effort and taking right action, right? Like that's actually that's not what I thought it was about. And I there's a part of me that really doesn't like that because I'm kind of lazy.
Totally.
But it does work.
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, thanks for listening to my stories and
That's good stuff.
yeah, we'll keep taking action. Well, hey, is it time? Is it time for
It
our
feels like it.
slogan? Let's do it.
All right. Okay, let's
Want
do
to
it.
train the mind.
I'm gonna share my screen, my random Lojong screen here. All right, let me know when you can see it.
Yep, you're on.
All right, very well. I'm gonna press the big orange button here.
This is the random Lojong slogan generator.
One of a kind.
All right. So this is number 9. I'm not sure if we've had this one before, but
No.
it's one that I'm familiar with. It says use sayings to train in all forms of activity,
Yeah.
which is it's kind of like just reflecting on using Lojong slogans. Like use slogans.
Yeah.
Um, but let's see what they say down here. There's this one part that says memorizing pithy sayings can help us to stay on track during our daily lives. Alcoholics Anonymous uses this approach extensively. The Judeo-Christian traditions have the Book of Proverbs, and according to David Shapiro, Tibet's vast epic of Gesar
Yep.
uses proverbs or sayings in an unusually extensive manner. So let's see. While the use of proverbs is common in other epics, the Gesar epic stands out for the breadth and depth of its proverbs. Their importance to the Tibetan people, as well as nomadic people in general, cannot be overstated. The proverbs represent the major method by which the cultural, philosophical, and religious knowledge of Tibet is transmitted by the epic. So,
Oh, they're
oh,
little
and there's a
ones.
little more, yeah. Um, Clearly, sayings work for many people. It's good to use the Lojong sayings, but one need not be limited to them. As Charlie points out, Shantideva's Bodhicharya Vitarya is a good source of sayings that can help keep us on the Mahayana path. Absolutely. So here's one from Shantideva. Let us not be downcast by the warring wants of childish persons quarreling. Their thoughts are bred from conflict and emotion. Let us understand and treat them lovingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
well, and I like this image that has come up of four-armed Maitreya is incredible. All the red, it's fantastic.
I don't think
Um,
I've ever seen forearm Maitreya.
yeah, I don't think I have either.
Hmm.
But something I like about this slogan is that it lets us know that it's okay to like break down some of the teachings into these kind of like bite-size pith instructions, we don't necessarily have to, be reading several hours a day or, like we have busy lives. So it's okay to use these slogans as these kind of like jump starts to our meditation and to our day. And that's actually a really great way to train.
It reminds me of something, so the various sort of pithy sayings it, and the value reminds me of something that is Lama I know has talked about, and I've read in a few different books about how, if you pick up just the corner of a rug and pull on it, the entire rug comes with it. And
Uh,
to me, the pithy sayings are like the corner of the rug. It's just a little thing, right? But when you pull on that pithy saying, the vast sort of like everything else that's sort of related to that comes with it,
yeah.
right? And so, like I feel that way when I like my mind when I reflect on the Dharma usually it will pick up on some little piece, right? It's just some little thing. And then there's this sort of nonverbal sense of like sort of like understanding of what that's all related to, right? I don't know quite how to describe it, but like even something as simple as one of Lama's pithy sayings is the best practice is the one you do,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel like, sometimes I'm overwhelmed with this feeling of like, oh, there's so much to do. There's so much I need to be doing, and I'm not living up to, I'm not doing this. I should be doing 17 or 16 of these and 23 of those. And I should be doing all these practices every day, morning, noon, and night, whatever.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then when I start to get overwhelmed and I'm like kind of stressed about it, and then I'm like, wait, the best practice is the one you do. Like chill, relax a little bit, right? Like not too tight, not
Right.
too loose, right? Even that, right?
Yeah,
Not too tight, not
absolutely.
too loose. Like it has great meaning way beyond those words.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's so helpful. And it's interesting how those little phrases, because they're so bite-sized and easy
Yeah.
to remember, they kind of like pop up in random times. Like a teaching will come to me where
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right now.
That's
That's
right.
right
That's
now.
what I mean is like a
Yeah.
teaching will come to you, and the
Yeah.
way that at least the way that I perceive it is that a particular short little thing, pithy thing will show up in my head, and then this sort of like the whole rest of the rug comes in with it,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
One of the ones that often comes up in my mind is thus my death is definite, but the time of death is most indefinite.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's like that one just helps me kind of like it's a little bit of like cold water in the face where it's like, oh yeah, pay attention. Like
That's right.
what am I doing here? You know?
That's right.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting how, and I think, we'll be attracted to different slogans based off of our needs as well. So it's kind of it's fun to explore.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
cool. We never a Lojong slogan that we haven't had before. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. All right.
Thanks for the Lojong slogan generator there, Dirk
Yeah,
Johnson.
thanks, Dirk.
Appreciate
We need
that.
to have you back on again soon,
Yeah.
Dirk.
Mm. Mm-mm.
Well,
Well, shall we
Daniel,
venture into the hells?
oh no. Well, it sounds like in Sacramento, y'all are nearly in hell right now.
111 degrees.
Jeez. And I saw the forecast for the next few days. It's not letting up.
No, no,
Woo!
no. I might have to just force siestas upon the household, you
No,
know.
I think that's the only healthy way to get through.
Right? Yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty gnarly out there. It feels like a sauna. I hope go outside and it feels like a sauna.
Yep.
Crazy. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's nothing compared to the hells described here, the Buddhist hells. You know what I think is so cool is
Mm.
again, just like sort of my elementary early what I thought I knew about Buddhism, peace,
Yeah.
love, letting go easy, all that stuff. There are, I don't think I've ever read more descriptive, creative, in depth, you know what I mean? Like really
Yeah.
detailed expressions on multiple levels of all the different kinds of torture and
Yeah.
oh, the horribles of hell. I mean, I'm just like, "Ooh, I really don't want to go there."
Yeah, no, no, we don't. Well, I think I mean, that's part of uh, you know, whether we're taking it literally or as like psychological states, you don't want to be in either the literal or the psychological
No,
version
no,
of those
not at all.
hells.
Hey, you grew up Christian. Did you guys believe in hell?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like a
for sure.
burning hellfire, all that?
Burning hell. Uh-huh. How
Really?
about you?
No.
You guys, okay, so yeah, Jehovah's Witness don't have hells.
No, what they have is they believe that there's going to be a paradise earth that some people go to like a heaven, but most of the people who are like good people, they stay on earth and live forever, healthy, happy on earth, right? And on paradise earth. Um, but what happens to the people who normally Christians would say are going to hell is that they are simply that's the end. Like it's really
Yeah.
truly like an eternal end. They don't so the good people, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, get resurrected. They come back, right? they're reborn or whatever on Earth, but like the bad people or whatever, people who aren't who don't do what they're supposed to, they just remain dead or get dead and stay dead forever, and that's that. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. And it's interesting because I think that that does give rise to some of my sort of my nihilism and sort of this like, man, it doesn't, like, I'm just gonna like, there's not gonna be a nothing, a big empty nothing, blankness or whatever, even though I've
Yeah.
never experienced anything like that. But I was just curious how, you in reading about the Buddhist hells, how it felt different compared to your Christian hell.
Well, yeah, it was funny because you said that you were thinking about how your upbringing and those beliefs, early beliefs, impacted how you behave now. Well, certainly having, beliefs that you're going to burn eternally,
Right.
never endingly, has certainly affected, I think, my vibe.
Yeah.
As a young, when you're young and your mind is developing and that is put in your head, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, I mean, I think I've dealt with a lot of anxiety, and I wonder if that's um, you know, part of what gives me a lot of like energy too. Is like this kind of must keep going, must keep doing, be disciplined. Um, in
Oh,
some ways, maybe that shaped some of my, my responses.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, one thing that I really appreciate about learning about the hell realms from a Buddhist perspective is knowing that, all things are impermanent, everything is conditioned. And so that means that there is no permanent hell, there's no permanent realm. And so these beings that are, thrust into these states because of, actions of their mind and body and speech and whatnot, they're not going to stay there. Like, yeah, they might be there for a while, but that karma is gonna a little bit, but that karma's gonna, burn off, so to speak.
Right.
And then they're no longer in that realm. But that's kind of the incredible thing about karma, is that, we are going to experience the results of our actions,
Right.
but those results are also impermanent. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, no, I we don't have to worry that it's going to be forever. We don't want to get there, but we're not like lost causes,
Right.
because of our actions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's interesting the other aspect of it. Yeah, they're impermanent, but you really don't want to go there because there it's possible the way that it's described anyway, if you were looking at the literal aspect of it, it can last an infinitely long period of time, billions, trillions of years, right? And the same certainly can go for our in our own lives when we're in a hellish experience. I mean, we probably
Yeah.
both know plenty of people who their entire existence in a single lifetime is in terrible, terrible hells.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so that would be as long as you can possibly, like that's a long period of time, right? It's not some, it's
Yeah.
sure it's temporary, but it doesn't mean that it's just going to be go by in a blip, right? I was
Right.
actually reading while I was on vacation, I was reading some a Lam Rim book. I forget the name of the teacher. But one point that he made that I thought was really interesting to or relevant to our discussion, he said, a lot of people might think of the hell realms as something where, oh, well, while you're in it, sure, it sounds bad to us what they're going through, but they probably get used to it, and it probably isn't as, like not it's probably not as bad, right? Maybe from our perspective, we think it's bad, but while they're in it, yeah, maybe sometimes it's unpleasant, but it's up and down. It's some good, some bad days. And he
But
was
no,
like, nope.
No.
That is not the way that they're actually described, right?
Yeah.
Like the details. So I mean, I think some of these things are fascinating. Can we talk about the actual?
Please.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. All right. So there's all these different variations and how many hells there are, right? Like but in most cases it's like eight hot, eight cold, and they're sort of like based on like if you got that heat, like that angry sort of heat, like you kill people out of anger or whatever, then that's like you're gonna go to like a hot hell. And if you were sort of like indifferent or cold to the suffering of others, that kind of thing, then you would go into those cold hells. But when they describe like what happens, like oh my God, okay, like in the hell realms, one of my favorite. Okay, this is a little bit morbid, but one of my favorite hell realms is this one where basically okay, so the people are all fighting each other and they're tortured and all these bad things are happening, and then the like gates of hell open up and they think they're free, and so
Oh.
everybody starts rushing out of the gates of hell. They're like, yeah, woo, and they're running towards these two mountains, right?
Uh-huh.
But then as they run in between the mountains come together, come together, come together, and just crush them,
Oh
right?
my
And
God.
then they get crushed in between the two mountains, and they when they wake up, they're back in hell again. And and so
That's
there are these
brutal.
cycles, where basically like death in the hell realms is just, yeah, you're gonna die, and then you're gonna like come back, and then you're gonna die again, and then you're gonna come back, and you're gonna die again, again,
Yeah.
again, again,
Yeah.
again, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
rough. And what the worst kind of torture, right? Is to believe that you're going to be free and then never mind. Actually, you're back at square one.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think like to me, any modern horror movie has nothing based upon the imaginations of the people who wrote up these descriptions.
Right. Well, and
Well,
I'm
and they may not even be let's just for the record, it may not necessarily be just imaginative.
totally.
Because the
Yeah.
sutras do sort of point to uh, not just like visions, as in like creative visions of these things, but that actual bodhisattvas have peered in and gone and looked and
Yeah, gone
reported
in.
back what it's actually going on.
Yeah. Well, isn't there someone who a bodhisattva who pledged, to go into the hells and free all the
Yeah,
humans? Like that
he's
was his kind of aim. Yeah. Do you know
yeah,
who that was? Do you remember?
yeah. In Tibetan, I don't know exactly how to say it, but it's like Ksitigarbha
Mm.
Bodhisattva. In Japanese, Jizo. Uh, it's kind of cute, the story of that bodhisattva. I really liked how that bodhisattva became the sort of the bodhisattva of the hell realms. Um, it's said that in a previous lifetime, they were concerned about their mother because the mother kept disparaging the three jewels, right?
Mm.
And then the mother died, and the daughter was worried, like, oh, if my mom's in hell because she committed these actions, and I know it. And so she made all kinds of offerings and like prayers and supplications to try to keep her mom out of hell or to release her from hell or whatever. And then somehow she was like magically transported to the hell realms, where the child could see that their mother had already, because of their sincere devotion and their offerings and stuff, had already escaped hell and was no longer there. But the
Mm.
child, having seen that their mother was gone, looked around and saw all the other beings who were still in hell, and
Yeah.
they pledged right then and there that they would not um go like what would you call it, go into permanent nirvana or whatever until all the hell realms were emptied out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That's a pretty awesome story.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what, compassion too, right? Because you're describing some of the hells, one of them is boiling excrement hell. See,
Oh, yeah,
there's
boiling.
all this disgusting, right? And so I would imagine maybe have a vision of hell or be brought into hell and be like, these beings are disgusting. They must have done some really awful shit to get here. Like
Yeah.
maybe they deserve it. They deserve to be suffering, right? And so that's like this child who saw all of these beings in such extreme suffering had the compassion to say, all of these beings deserve to be free. And that's awesome. It's
You know
inspiring.
what I like about what you just said? It does sort of provoke this question because the word deserve,
Right. Yeah.
what it,
Deserve.
what exactly does that mean? Because I think it does sort of have its roots in our sort of Judeo-Christian
It does.
system,
Yeah.
because within that system, there's a judge,
Yep.
right? That judge is a god, and they, you either did what they said to do or you didn't, and you either are a good boy or girl or whatever, and you go to heaven or you go to hell or whatever the hell,
Yeah.
whatever's
Yeah.
gonna happen there, right?
You
And so
get
there's
your
like,
just rewards.
what's that?
You get your just rewards,
That's
right? When you're
right,
just
right,
punishing.
exactly. And that,
Mhm.
yeah, and that there's somehow maybe like a purpose to it as well, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas within the Buddhist version of it, it's really just it's there's not necessarily like a purpose to hell. It's true, your karma does burn off, right? In the sense that eventually it exhausts itself, but all karma is good and bad exhaust themselves
Yep.
eventually. And
Yeah.
that's how you got there, not because you deserve it, and
Right.
not because there's some kind of a god who says like you're going to go to hell because you
Right.
didn't do this or you didn't do that. No,
Right.
no, like you send yourself to hell. That's how you
Right.
got there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
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 And
No, I think that is one of the most kind of helpful things I've been thinking about with this, is when you think about planting like a seed, like let's say you plant a tomato seed, you're gonna get a tomato plant. You're not gonna get like an orange tree or something,
yeah, assuming
And
the
so,
causes and conditions are sufficient.
right, right. So you've got all, the soil, the sun, and
Yeah.
whatnot. But no matter what, whether the causes and conditions are there, that's a tomato seed, not an orange tree seed. And so what you plant is going to be what, the resulting thing
Yeah.
is. And so
Yeah.
it's just logical, and so does that, d- does that, should we judge that? Like we wouldn't judge a tomato plant. But yeah, that this result of this health state um, is, comes from a pattern of behavior, of action, and all sorts of causes and conditions surrounding that. And so, yeah, I'm just really inspired by that being's compassion, because it's hard not to think when you're, in the moment, like of just kind of in my everyday normal state of mind. I see people do things and I judge, like
Yeah, that's
there's
right.
different things that I will certainly judge as good or bad. And so this is just a really good reminder for me that every single being is on the path to their Buddhahood,
That's yeah, yeah, yeah. How can
all
you it's
beings, right?
right, right. So how can you on the one hand judge a person now for their actions and say, well, that person is truly evil, despicable, they deserve whatever. And then on the other hand, sort of be like, and I, as a bodhisattva, will not rest until I empty out the hells. Well, what the hell did those people do to get there in the first place, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like how, you're gonna judge the seed but not the fruit. Like,
yeah,
I don't like that aspect of it. You have to like go let go of all of it and
yeah,
recognize that, everybody who is, whether wherever they are in the process of sowing, acquiring the seed, sowing the seed, nurturing the seed, or receiving the fruit, the ripening of the seed, at all points, if it's something that is bad, that we should have some compassion. They're suffering as a result of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course we do, we want to be doing all the harm reduction that we can, in our world for ourselves and others. And so we want to avoid the actions that will, lead to those really unfortunate forms of rebirth. And so some of those actions are like intentionally killing your parents, causing a schism in the sangha, and that's like amongst the monastics, I think, where it's like you know breaking apart monastic communities,
Yeah.
and then drawing blood from a Buddha, which also means like defacing the Dharma, defacing images of intentionally defacing images. And what else? I'm trying
Well, so
to
that's the
think.
interesting thing about it, is that so when you look at both the hot and the cold hells, there are these degrees of difference, not just in terms of temperature, but in terms of sort of the intensity of it. So, for example, you have, on the one hand, you have like a hell where people who enjoyed killing animals might go, right?
Yeah,
Or even maybe I think a lesser one was like people who are like cruel officials, that like they're in positions of power and they're somehow cruel, right? And so
yeah.
there's like a certain hell that they might enter into, that yes, it's bad, and yes, it's long, and yes, it's whatever, but then you go into these other levels. Like there's this one, the one that you mentioned, the causes that you were just talking about, the, what do they call them, the five
It's like the five something for
five
Avicii.
heinous crimes, right? Yes, and yeah,
Mhm.
and the hell that those people go into is called Avicii, which is uninterrupted hell,
Yeah,
right? Which is interesting because, as I alluded to, some of these you get a little break. You get to die. You get to get crushed by mountains. Something, animals eat you up, and you get like a little bit of a like it's,
right,
and then it starts up again. And maybe you get a little bit of hope. There's something, but the
right.
uninterrupted hell is continuous, intense. There's no break, there's no respite. It just keeps going. It's hardcore and it's unending, right?
Yeah.
And so, depending on sort of like the intensity of like your mental continuum, I would suppose, or your conditioning, the intensity of that, the intensity of the hell is sort of corresponding.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know about like the cruel officials realm. Um, and man, there's a lot of people who have to be careful, right? Because
Yeah.
so many of us, even in lower level positions than government, like we still might be supervising people or working with people, and yeah, let's not be cruel to
Well,
people.
even to the point that I think, like there's I mean, I don't know. I can't get into all the details about, like, it's not just killing, like, people kill for food and people eat meat and whatever.
Right, right.
It's not necessarily that they're going to go to hell, but it has to do with, like, your sort of psycho-emotional state generally.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, somebody who smacks an insect or kills a spider or a mosquito or something doesn't necessarily have to like fear that they're going to go to hell. But if they were torturing the tick after they pulled it off their body, and they were like, yeah,
Mm,
that serves
mhm.
you, you know what I mean? Then that
Yeah,
might actually be enough, right? Like, I'm not like preaching, I'm not trying to suggest that I know the details of which
yeah,
karmic actions lead where, but it's interesting to note sort of like there's like a flavor to it. It's not the
yeah.
action. It's not just the like what happened, but your intention behind it, right? Because
We're just yeah,
karmic stuff is about intentional behavior.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and that was a relief to my kind of like
Yeah.
Christian raised mind too, because in uh at least how I interpreted it as a child, it was like any action that, was on the Ten Commandments or what, whatever that I did that was considered wrong, even if I didn't mean to,
Yeah.
that would be a mark against your name,
Oof.
Or then, of
Yeah.
course, growing up and realizing that I was having like queer feelings and
Right?
experiences and being
Automatic
like,
straight to hell.
I
Yep.
can't even control this and I'm going straight to hell,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
that's
That's awful.
horrifying,
That's awful.
It's
Oh,
awful. Yeah. So intentional action, intentional cruelty, intentional harm. That's the stuff that we need to be on the lookout for. And pain, I think being mindful, because
yeah.
I can definitely commit some negative actions when I'm not being mindful. Is
Oh,
there
yeah.
intent behind them? No, but could I be paying attention more and caring more for what's around me? Maybe looking at the ground to see if I'm not walking on bugs or, things like that. Like I could be more positively
Right.
intentioned rather than kind of neutrally intentioned, if that makes any sense.
Interesting. I would say that if I'm not when I'm not mindful, I believe that I can engage in quite a few destructive, harmful, intentional acts.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I can see that sort of relationship. Like with anger, for
Yeah.
example.
Oh,
If I'm
sure.
not
Yeah.
mindful with anger, I can certainly act on it intentionally in
Yeah.
anger, knowing like not it's not an accident.
Yeah.
Like I did intend to hurt or whatever, like I can sort of imagine that. I can see that. But
Yeah.
I think that you're right about the mindfulness aspect of it. There's a story, even though there's no God that sends you to hell, there is a deity that presides over hell.
Mm.
So that's Yama, right? The Lord of
Mm-hmm.
Death. And you see him, in the big circle, the dependent origination. I forget what the circle of life, samsara. I
Yeah.
forget what that wheel's called.
I don't remember either. Yeah.
Anyway, Yama's always up at the top looking over the whole thing, but he's also the deity that presides over hell. And it's interesting, there's a story, I think it's in the Pali Canon, where this guy ends up in hell and Yama's there, right, to greet him. And the Yama's like, "Hey, while you were alive, did you not see my messengers? I was trying to warn you. Didn't you see all the messengers that I sent you?" And he starts by saying, like, didn't you see a baby that was like covered in its own urine and excrement, crying, meaning birth? And the
Mm.
guy's like, "Yeah, I did see that, right? Oh, yeah, didn't you see somebody growing old? Didn't you see somebody that was sick? Didn't you see somebody who was dying? Didn't you see people that were imprisoned? Didn't you see those were my messengers? I sent those to you to make sure that you were aware that you should be using that precious existence
Mm.
in a positive way, right? So that you wouldn't end up here." The guy was like, oopsie daisy, right? And it wasn't Yama didn't like send him to hell. Yama was just there presiding over it. Was like, "Man, I tried to warn you, bro."
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just went right in.
Yeah. It's like I've been throwing signals at you this whole
Yeah,
damn time.
yeah. Trying to let you know you don't want none of this.
Yeah. Well, that's such a good tale, right? Because it's like if we just opened our eyes and paid attention every single day, there are multiple reminders that there's a lot of suffering out there.
Yeah.
And we could send ourselves to those states of mind if without paying
Well,
attention.
yeah, and not only that, but there is this sort of sense of I think I'm not the only one to sometimes have this feeling of like, oh, I've got time to work my shit out. I can kind of, like I
Right.
got time. And then what's that one pithy saying that you like? Can you repeat it?
Ah, yeah. Death is definite, but the time of death is most indefinite.
It
And after death, I am far more likely to be sent to one of the lower realms, having created infinitely more negative than positive karma in this life.
Now this is
That's the whole phrase.
okay. Now that last little part, I mean, I think some people might disagree with it, but upon careful, I've been contemplating this a lot recently, which is it true? Is it
Mm,
true that my tendency is to produce negative karma as opposed to positive karma? And the more that I reflect on this, especially with the help of the book I'm reading on the Lam Rim, the more I realize, like, oh shit, actually, it's like entropy, right? Like, it's
mm,
this natural tendency towards the negative, unhelpful karmas, right? And so we
yeah,
actually have to put a lot of effort into the other direction, right? Not
right.
just to avoid these hells, right? But really to improve this life right here for
Yeah,
this sentient being and all of these other sentient beings. We
yeah.
don't have to wait,
And we
right?
want to be liberated. We want to be free, and we can be. So it's like, just let's do it.
Yeah.
Um, we can, I don't know, it feels exciting to me to think that like, oh, I have every single thing that I need to engage in liberation. And so what am I waiting for? Why would I just want to just kind of coast along?
Do I
Which
really
takes
want to,
work, right? It does
yeah.
take work.
Do I really want to wait until I'm staring up at Yama's, what is his big bull head or whatever it is he's
Yeah.
got? And he's like, dude, did you not, did you
Yeah.
not see the warning? Jack
Yeah.
tried to tell you with those pithy sayings, right? And
Well, let's hope, I kind of I sometimes I like to use the image of like a wrathful deity for my meditation, and maybe like getting familiar through meditation, that kind of yama or one of the wrathful ones. It's um that kind of can plant the seed of like reminding ourselves to see throughout, in post meditation,
Mm,
not just meditation. So, yeah, maybe I'll work on planting some seeds of recognition of yama throughout my day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he is within the Tibetan tradition. He did become a after long story, but the wrathful form of Manjushri did turn Yama into what's called a Dharmapala, which is a Dharma protector.
Hell yeah. Nice. Well, I'm glad
Nothing
he's
to fear there.
there. All right, Daniel, this has been wonderful. It's such a pleasure to be able to hang out with you again. I'm
Oh
glad you're
my
back.
God, my treat. I'm so happy. It's nice to see your face, hear your voice, and to talk to you again.
Same to
Hey, where are we
you.
going next week?
Hey, should we go on up to us?
Us.
Humans?
Yeah,
The human realm?
we're
What are you
next,
going to talk about?
right? We did animals, hungry
We'll
ghosts,
see.
hell.
We're
Next.
humans and devas and
Oh, the
or not devas, demigods and then gods. Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about us next week.
Okay.
All
That
right.
sounds good.
Sounds good. Take
All
care.
right. I was
Bye.
just, bye.